Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Hard Count Football Podcast Live. My name is Jacob Charnow, leading the next generation of football fans live on the Hard Count Football YouTube channel. And of course, right here on 1252 Sports Chicago. Guys, championship weekend, AFC Championship, NFC Championship. We got the Cincinnati Bengals at the Kansas City Chiefs, and we got the San Francisco 49ers at the Los Angeles Rams. Guys, this is going to be such a fun championship weekend. We had probably the best weekend of football that I've ever seen in my life last weekend in the divisional round. All those games coming down to the wire. The Tampa Rams game was nuts. Brady almost completed the comeback. Couldn't quite do it because of Stafford and Cooper Kupp. And then we had, that Bills-Chiefs game, which I really hope that you didn't bet on that game because, there was sweat dripping down every part of your face if you bet on either of those teams. But the Chiefs did come out on top. So let's get right into these games. We have a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about these games with Harry the Greek in just a little bit. We're going to get maybe some special guests in here. And then obviously we're going to talk about Tom Brady. We're going to talk about a little maybe off-season move for the Giants that I like. And we're going to talk about all of these head coaching hires that have happened so far and some head coaching hires that might happen in the short future, maybe next week, and all these head coaching vacancies. So with that being said, let's get right into it. First off, let's talk about this Tom Brady stuff before we go anywhere, right? 22 years in the league, 7 rings, I think 5 MVPs. I mean, listen, he's a Hall of Famer. He's the greatest of all time. What I think is so funny is that he said it came out he was retiring. And then all the posts got deleted, right? Even Schefter, Jeff Darlington, all these credible guys, credible sources telling us Brady's retired. That's it. Everyone's freaking out. Every team in the NFC, every team in the NFL is like, because they don't have to play against Tom Brady anymore. And then everything gets deleted. What I think is that Brady's retiring. He just wanted to announce it himself. He was pissed off that it got out, that he couldn't do it. Like Ben Roethlisberger did it just 3 days ago. And poor Ben Roethlisberger, man, he he retires and it gets overshadowed immediately by Tom Brady. And in 5 years, when both of them are eligible for the Hall of Fame and they both are inducted into the Hall of Fame first ballot, no one's going to care that Big Ben's in the Hall of Fame because it's the year that Tom Brady's getting inducted. And I think that's hilarious. So, man, Brady, if this is it, which I think it is, I mean, obviously a great career, but it opens up now a big hole for the Buccaneers that we'll talk about in just a little bit because we're going to see who we're going to hear what Harry thinks. We're going to hear what possibly some of our guests think, and go ahead and comment who you think the next Buccaneers starting QB is if you were to guess right now. So let's talk about these games because that's the big news. And for these games, I need him in here. Harry the Greek. Harry. What's going on, man? Let's talk right away. These divisional games, man. First, how are you? Second, what'd you think of these divisional games last week?
The divisional games, I'll tell you what, it was a thing of beauty. Hey, did I tell you that the Green Bay Packers have been eliminated?
You mentioned it once or twice.
I
Not
don't
only
know.
did they get eliminated,
they're eliminated. They're done. They're gone. See you later. Bye.
They got eliminated, and they lost half of their coaching staff already. So
yeah, I know. I was correct so far. I love to start a show when I'm saying I'm right. I just wish someone else would say it to me. Okay, I had the 2 upsets. The Rams. That was one of the picks over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And San Francisco over Green Bay. I lost with one of the other games, but you know what? It's nice to be me lately, man. I've been picking pretty damn well. I'll tell you what an exciting week of football. And I'll tell you what, we were live yesterday on a couple of different platforms when they made the announcement that Tom Brady was going to retire, and it was quite comical. I mean, the show was up here and then down here, and maybe it was and maybe it wasn't. Look, you said it right. He's pissed off because it got out. His father said it wasn't true, but his agent said yes, it was. So you don't really know who to believe.
yeah, I think I think he's going to retire. I think it's done. But Listen, he called Jason Light, told him that he made no decision yet. So whatever, right? I guess we'll see. Last week I was right about I had the Rams and I had the Bengals. Those were my picks.
Yeah, how did you know what? Great pick, Jacob.
Those were my
Great,
I
great pick.
I
Can
was
you
wrong with
actually
the
can
Bengals.
you close your eyes and sleep at nighttime knowing that the Bengals beat
Yeah,
them, the Titans? I
that's
mean, honestly, was
that's
it
great.
supposed? So if you watch the game again, you'd say they deserved to
No,
win that game? Okay,
uh,
good. I just want to throw that out there.
no, because well, okay. I liked I liked the Bengals. Just their offense is so explosive. I think that even with this offensive line, which we'll talk about when we talk about this game, it's I think they can still produce. I think Burrow is really that quick with his decision making. I think he's
I
already.
love Joe Burrow.
But I also and then I mean I was wrong about the Bills game, but man, that was I don't was I even really wrong? Right? I don't even know. Right? I picked the winner wrong for sure, but that certainly wasn't a bad pick. Um, but and then what was that fourth game? Oh, and then the Niners game. I thought the Packers were going to blow out the Niners, but
No,
whatever. That wasn't
no. You
that.
know what? And you know what? I got to go back to that game. Did I tell everybody out there that Aaron Rodgers and the Packers were eliminated? Just in case you didn't catch that, they're out of the playoffs. The prima donna himself, the Cheesehead Factory themselves, and anybody who roots for them should have maggots crawling out there. You know what? But anyway, um, it was when you first watched the game, that very first drive, you're like, oh my God, San Fran's in trouble.
Yeah.
And then the second drive, it was like, yeah, well, they're still moving the ball. By the time the third drive came around, it was like San Francisco's defense. It was just like, here, you know what? We're going to put the jar back. We're going to put the lid back up on this jar, and we're just going to put it over here. We're just going to wait to the fourth quarter to beat you.
Here's my thing, right? It wasn't like every drive it's not like the Niners offense continuously got better, right?
No,
No, it remained bad the entire game. But the thing was, all of a sudden, it was 10-10. And then all of a sudden, it's the end of the fourth quarter, and the Niners are driving down the field. The Niners get the ball at midfield, they drive down, and they get a field goal.
I know.
And then they win the game, and now they're in the NFC Championship, and the Packers are out.
Can I tell you the truth? When they were losing, it was early in the third quarter. I had to work the next day, and I'm laying on the couch, and I'm like, "Come on, Fran." And the next thing I know, I wake up, and I'm like, "What's Robbie Gold doing? What's
Yeah.
going on? What's going?" Yes, I called it.
Yeah.
And then the next day, I'm like, okay, I
Okay.
had to rewatch it, and I was like, boy, how lucky was I? They should have won that game about as deservingly as Cincinnati beat Tennessee. And as I always say, Jacob, remember this one thing, and everybody will agree with me with this. I'd rather be lucky than good any day of the week.
Yeah. Listen, the Packers are already losing half their coaching staff, right? Nathaniel Hackett goes to the Broncos, which we'll talk about.
Yep.
Luke Getzey, their QB coach, going to be the offensive coordinator over in Chicago. And then along with that, they should just fire their special teams coach into the sun. And then because how can you be so bad at special teams? Right?
Right.
How can you in such a crucial game? You're outplanned. You're outplayed by the opposing team, right? A blocked field goal, a blocked punt for a touchdown. That can't happen in those games.
No.
It cannot happen. Because guess what? It's not every game. If you want to win a Super Bowl, it's not every game where everything's going to be going for you, where the offense is going, where the defense is going. Sometimes you're going to have games like that Niners game where the opposing defense is shutting down your offense, but your defense is also playing well, and that's when special teams needs to come up clutch. That's when special teams can't break down, because that's what loses you football games.
Very well put, Jacob. You're absolutely correct with that. You know, before you get started or anything, because we always seem to forget this, because it's like you and I are just like two guys talking with each other, but
Mhm.
we're actually talking to people that are out there. If you have a question or a comment for Jacob or the Greek, go ahead and leave the comment. We're not taking open phone lines. I didn't set up that way this evening. I'm sorry, this morning. And if you'd like, leave a question, leave a comment. If you do disagree with us, he loves it. I hate it. But it might actually just change the narrative on what we're speaking about today.
Yeah. So let's get into some of these games, Harry. How about that?
I'd love to.
All right, let's start with the early game, 3:00 Eastern, 2:00 Central. The Cincinnati Bengals, they are 7.5-point underdogs today at Arrowhead Stadium to take on the Chiefs in the AFC Championship.
Mhm.
here's what I'm looking at, right? The points total right now is 54.5, by the way. Here's what I'm looking at. The matchup was red hot offense versus a red hot offense. That's what it is, right? Then you look, but when you really break it down, and if you watched the Chiefs Bills game, the Bills pass rush kind of dominated the Chiefs offensive line. They did. The problem is Mahomes can do his Mahomes thing and get out of it and make it look like it's not happening. Buffalo was really, really pressuring Kansas City, and Buffalo's pass rush and Buffalo pressuring them, Buffalo's pressures, they've not been great, their defensive line. They've not been able to put a ton of pressure all season, definitely not as much as 2 years ago.
Right.
Cincy's defensive line has been quietly one of the best in the league, right? With Trey Hendrickson, which was a fantastic signing and worth every penny. So the fact that they're putting so much pressure on, does that worry? Do both of these offensive lines worry you? Because Cincy's now has to go up, which allowed 9 sacks against the Titans, now has to go up against a combo with Frank Clark and Chris Jones, who are two of the most dominant defensive linemen in the league, Harry, right?
Yeah. Before we get into that, I was wondering, do you want to bring another person up there for another perspective as well?
I see him in the back room.
I'd like to introduce Mike Hughes. He's got a show right here on 1252 called Mike on the Mic. He's right there in the heart of Chicago, where we're born and raised. Loves the NBA, the WNBA, loves soccer, all those communist sports. Everything is great. Go.
What's up, Mike?
What's going on, guys? Harry, really quick, just for everybody on 1252, because I don't want to be questioned in the comments about anything. No idea about anything about soccer. I'm horrible with it. I root for Ireland just because that's my roots, but other than that, I have no idea what's going on. But it's great to be here, fellas. So thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you joining me. Let's talk here, right? We're talking about these offensive lines. Kansas City's, which didn't struggle nearly as much as Cincinnati's did in your divisional game, but certainly didn't look great. Do you think that this becomes a problem for either team, and which team do you think it becomes a bigger problem for?
Mike?
Listen, I think it becomes a problem for several reasons for Cincinnati, the biggest one being Chris Jones. I think Chris Jones is obviously going to be a problem in the trenches for them. That pass rush is very inconsistent for me to be able to say that it's going to be a consistent problem the entire game. I definitely think at one point or another, and I know this is like a very it's not a very hot take, but at one point or another, I do think that pass rush is going to get hot for the Chiefs. But I don't think it's going to be consistent enough for it to be a problem. The big reason why I've had the Bengals, Jacob, and I'm with you. I love your picks. I had the Bills as well, and I don't think it's a loss to the fact that we lost our picks based on a coin flip. But that's a whole different conversation for a different day. I do think at the end of the day, though, I had the Rams. I did have the Packers, so I can't take credit for that one. But I had the Bengals as well, and this is really their test for me. I felt like if they could beat Derrick Henry more so than the Titans, that they could win the Super Bowl, not win the Super Bowl, more so go to the Super Bowl. I do think at the end of the day, what helps them is being a two-dimensional offense. You're seeing right now from the Bengals a completely different Bengals offense than what they've been the last few weeks of the regular season. They are not going with Jamar Chase solely, and they are not going with T. Higgins solely. You're seeing correct me if I'm saying his name right, Asuma and Boyd and others, you're seeing them all become productive. And they still have Joe Mixon. Yeah. There's Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Williams. I don't trust them for a lick of nothing. I can only trust them as far as I can throw them, and that's not very far. So I do think at the end of the day, I know they're unproven. I know as a diehard Bears fan, betting on Patrick Mahomes failing is the biggest thing and the biggest problem I've had in the last few years. But it comes to a point where Joe Burrow, man, as young as he is, I mean, Jacob, he's as young as you and I. He's up there. You know what I mean? Like he has no credibility with any of these other cats that are left in the playoffs right now. They're at like Stafford, Garoppolo, and Mahomes, but mentally, the guy's up there with the best of them. And I don't think he's being fazed by this whatsoever. So you see the Honey Badgers coming off of a concussion, and he already has his playoff issues as it is. So I do think they are going to be able to take advantage of them today. So I'd go with the Bengals, but definitely keep your eye on Patrick Mahomes.
So yeah, I think and there's the wife for Harry. I'm with you, man. I have to pick the Bengals. I want to pick the Bengals to win. I want to go with my gut and pick the Bengals to win this game. I
But
really do.
it's Patrick Mahomes that messes you up, isn't it?
It is. It is. It's like last week I was all in on the Rams, and I'm all in on the Rams, and I'm like,
Right.
and they're up 27-3, and I'm like, all right, I'm cashing out on this one, and then
Right.
I'm like, oh, Tom Brady is on the other side right now. And I was all over that. Listen, I like the Bengals, but I like the Bengals for a different reason. And Harry, we'll go to you in just a second. I think, I'm watching the game last week. They give up over 200 yards and 4 touchdowns to Gabriel Davis, but they give up 3 catches for 7 yards to Stephon Diggs in his big revenge game. Here's my thing. The Chiefs can focus on one person, but they don't have enough talent in this secondary to handle, like you said, the likes of a Jamar Chase, a Tyler Boyd, a T. Higgins, all of whom on any given day can go for 7 catches for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Right.
That's my problem. They don't have a second guy to cover, let alone a third guy or a fourth guy that they can cover. Because now Uzoma, like you said, has taken over and started producing. And now Tyrann Mathieu, as a safety, is going to have to shadow him a little bit. And then that opens up the deep ball. And all those receivers can get deep. They can all do everything. And I just think it's going to be too much for this Chiefs defense to handle. We saw the Bengals beat them earlier in the season. And it wasn't that much. It was week 17. So it was very, very recently. I know, I understand Zach Taylor going up against Andy Reid is not an ideal matchup in terms of coaching, but I think this Bengals offense stays hot and upsets the Chiefs today. Harry, what do you think?
Oh, I'm just chomping at the bit. Listen to me, the bit. Hey, look, I'm going to go full screen and tell you this. I love my Bayou boy himself, Mr. Joe Burrow. Love me some Joe Burrow, LSU. I was a huge fan for what he did down in LSU. But really? You guys really think that they're going to upset the Kansas City Chiefs? Let me explain to you why this is not going to happen. Bye, honey. Go to work. See you later. Anyway, look, Kansas City's defense is a lot better than Cincinnati's. Okay. Not by a little, by a lot. Okay. And the offensive lines, there's not even comparable. Cincinnati's offensive line stinks. He was sacked 9 times yesterday, guys. Kansas City's defense is every bit as good as Tennessee's. Let's get that right out of the way. It's going to be a long day for the Bayou Bengal himself and Joe Burrow. I wish him all. Listen, nothing would make me happier than to see me lose this wager, but lay the 7.5 in Kansas City. I'm not going to get into all the logistics about it. The baby goat is not the baby goat. The Billy Goat himself, unfortunately, is going to beat the brakes off of Cincinnati in this game. That's all I got.
Yeah, I'm taking the 7. I like the 7.5 for the Bengals as not a not
Is it 7.5 or 7?
It's 7.5 right now. I love the 7.5 bet on the Bengals, but my bold pick for today is the Bengals money line for sure.
Yeah.
Oh God, stop it, please.
Come on,
Please
stop
it.
You gotta trust Joey B.
The NFL's all about matchups, bro. I can't look at last week, look at this Chiefs Bills game, and be like, man, how is anyone going to stop them? Because the Bills offense, even though they were number 1 ranked, they look like they've never played defense before in their lives.
And that was the thing that you and I talked about, Jacob, numerous times throughout the season. What happened to this Bills teams? Let's give a little refresher course.
Losing Trey White was ridiculous. Was unspeakably. It was an unspeakably big loss for them.
Let's give a little refresher course. In the middle part of the season was right around week 11. You and I were talking, and I said, hey, here's an interesting stat, Jacob. And this is probably something that you didn't know and a lot of people didn't know. But before the season started, the Buffalo Bills had one of the hardest schedules in the entire National Football League. But after week 11, when you accumulated every team that they played, it was the easiest schedule. They were losing the teams they shouldn't have lost to. And you and I were going, I don't know. And then they sucked us right back in when they had that one convincing one in the playoffs. We're like, they're back. Oh, yeah, the Buffalo Bills are back. No. That defense, they definitely have some holes in it.
Now, Harry, I do want to ask you though, since we're kind of keeping that same energy here. We see it with the same thing with the Chiefs, and it's at the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes is the one that sucks you back in. But at the beginning of the season, I mean, you got Stephen A. Smith and everybody else calling them out that they're going to even miss the playoffs. So I can't really sit here and say that the Chiefs have been perfect all season long.
No,
they've been going through their own stuff.
Mike, that's a great point because both Jacob and I were saying they're done. It wasn't even the middle of the season. They're like, this team is done. The Chargers were better. The Raiders were possibly better. Denver was giving them fits. It wasn't Patrick.
Look, 5-0 or something.
Yeah, they were.
Listen, it wasn't the Billy Goat that brought this team back to becoming
Right.
something of fruition. It was that defense that turned around and started making that team better. Let me tell you something. There is a playbook on how to beat Patrick Mahomes, and that's why I keep calling him the Billy Goat. It's the same thing I watch when I'm watching coaches tape when I'm handicapping football. That man rose to his right over 85% of the time when he's rolling out. And did you know that over 50% of the time, the closer you push him to the sideline, the propensity of throwing across the back and middle of the field. And that's why Patrick Mahomes is not ever going to be the GOAT because of that reason. Because it just takes a linebacker to shadow him and the safety to come up, and they always break on that ball. That's why he turned that ball over as many times as he did. And you put him up against a huge defense, and this team will crumble like a house of cards because they don't have the running game, but they got a defense. But Cincinnati doesn't have this defense.
I don't know. I know.
They don't.
Here's what I'll say about that defense. And someone who played safety, I look at things very differently from a different perspective, more than just like the name brand guys. Like if you look at the Rams, it's all name brand guys, other than Leonard Floyd, who is a guy trying to revive his career. But other than that, they're solid guys who have their own brand, their own market, their own everything. With the Bengals, if you really look at what that defense is, it was built and constructed to be a playoff defense. Now they're not going to do anything in the regular season that surprises.
Explain this to me. You just can't make that comment and not explain what makes them a playoff defense.
Now, when you look at who they signed, there's guys and specifics in the free agency. Now we can go down the list and name every single one of them, but all of them have playoff experience. I can try to pull up every single one of them.
No. So former players, you're saying, have playoff experience.
They're bringing in from the Cowboys, the Patriots, all over the place. These guys have playoff experience, and I think that's what helps them so much is that you're not having to rely on young guys like Mike Hughes on the Kansas City Chiefs is going to have to go up against Jamar Chase today. I'm terrified of that. That is not a good matchup. That is not something I'm excited about. And I love Mike. Mike's my guy. We share the same name. I gotta love him. But at the end of the day, I'm not excited to see Mike Hughes have to go up against him because Mike Hughes has never been battle tested in the playoffs. But the majority of the players on this Bengals defense, where they're not great, they are veterans. And I do believe at the end of the day, you can convince them, hey, this is what we're doing. I need you guys to believe fully into this. And I believe they are going to buy into it because they understand what it takes to win a playoff game. They understand what it's like to be there. Whereas with the Chiefs, it's really the Honey Badger, Chris Jones, and a couple other guys who you can really say that you can rely on. Other than that, we've seen time and time again them get beat by the 49ers, by Tom Brady last year, and so many others. I've seen them be exposed. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to go down to just tick for tack and who's going to make the first mistake.
I think you look at it and like you said about the brand name guys, right? That was a great point with the Rams. You got Von Miller, you got Aaron Donald, you got Leonard Floyd, Jalen Ramsey, all these guys, right? When you look at this Bengals defense, and Harry, you can attest this too for me. I have been saying all season that this Bengals defense is quietly one of the best in the league because you look at it, right? And there's games where they certainly didn't play well, but there's games where every defense, there's not one game where a defense played well all 18 weeks of the season. The cornerback group of Chidobe Awuzie and Eli Apple, 2 years ago, you would have been like, this team went 0-16 because those are two names that sound like they would get burned every single play.
Yeah.
Right.
They have been locked down. They have been a lockdown duo for the last however many weeks.
They've been doing a really good job of keeping teams in front of them. They're playing a lot of bend type of mentality. But the reason why, and I want to interrupt you just for a second because I just want to flash back to Mike's point. And this is what I'm watching, and this is what I've watched the entire season. The Kansas City Chiefs, it pains me to say in the same sentence, playing a really good defense and being the Kansas City Chiefs. But what they've done differently since the middle part of the season, they're playing a lot of press zone, which is really unusual. So they're getting their corners, even though they're inferior, up on the line of scrimmage, and they're rolling the protection over to their number one. So my question to both of you, and then Jacob, go ahead and make your point again. If you're running a press zone and you're rolling a safety or a linebacker to cover the middle of the field to take out Jamar Chase, which in my opinion is the best receiver in the National Football League, even though he's a rookie. But anyway, that's for another story and another time. Who's going to beat them on the other side? Honestly, Because when you play a press zone, now if they're playing a zone defense like
Right.
the old Tampa 2, Cincinnati's going to light Kansas City up. And if Kansas City comes out and plays that type of defense like they did in the first part of the year, they're in a lot of trouble. But if they play their defense where they're going to play press zone where the safety or a linebacker, sometimes both of them are rolling over to the protection,
Right.
that he's still going to get his catches, but he's not going off for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Right.
Let's just get that right out of the way. He's not going to do that if they play a press zone. And very few teams do it to perfection, and Kansas City's doing it. Rolling back to Cincinnati, I didn't know that. You're starting to make me a believer, but please keep going.
And the thing is, you see in that game last week against Buffalo, as soon as there's any sort of, explosivity in an offense, and I understand Buffalo couldn't do it either, but Kansas City wasn't stopping Buffalo either, right? Buffalo gets that ball at the beginning of overtime. I promise you they win that game.
They were running their DBs 10 to 15 yards off the line of scrimmage. It was the first time since week 6 that they did that. Just letting you know. Yeah. I have not seen that. So if they're going to run that same kind of defense, which in my opinion, how in the hell could you possibly think about running a deep zone like that? It's ridiculous. I'm telling you, KC, that defense is going to get after, especially that porous offensive line. But if they don't play that way, Kansas City could be in for a long day. But that's how I take Jamar Chase out of the game.
You're looking at it. I hear what you're saying, and I love it, Harry. And it brings a totally different dynamic because I played I love the idea of a safety covering up for the linebacker. But from my perspective, what would concern me about that, and I think Jacob can agree, is what took them out of the game for the Bills to me. And it didn't take them out of the game because it was a shootout at the end of the day. But what made them less effective was that Knox's ability wasn't there. He was 2 for 9. That's where they need to step up right now. Uzomah needs to be that guy. If they are doing exactly what you just said, every single thing, going to the right, and they are going to cover for Jamar Chase, Uzomah needs to be that guy, and he needs to step up the way we saw him step up last week, the way we've seen him step up in recently throughout the year. His problem is consistency. And when you have so many wide receivers in that room, I can't blame you for not being a consistent tight end because, there's so many mouths to feed on top of Joe Mixon, on top of Joe Burrow doing his own thing. There's a lot of things going on there. So right now, if that's the game plan we're seeing at halftime, Harry, I definitely do think if I'm Taylor, I get in that locker room and I tell Uzomah right now, every ball is getting fed to you and Boyd, and we're going to run it with that because they are covering Higgins, they are covering Jamar. But if that linebacker is moving to help the safety to get Jamar, that's a wide open gap for your tight end. It's literally, Jacob knows, it's Madden. You're just Madden. Tight end attack all day, and Uzomah's going to get a touchdown.
Look, man, Kansas City does a really, really good job when they're playing really good defense at dictating to the offense where the protection is going to roll to. Right. And they really force you to go the other way. But you can say that about every team in the National Football League, including the Houston Texans, which is for another show. That's another team that does an extraordinary job with no-name players that know how to force the protection to one end of the field to take you out of what you're going to do best. Right. I don't see that from Cincinnati, though, but I do see it out of the 2 corners you guys were talking about, and they have done an extraordinary job. I'm not an Eli Apple fan by no means, but yes, he has played. He has played very, very good.
I'm gonna send you an Eli Apple jersey, Harry. We're gonna get you on there. We're gonna get you on.
Much love. It's gonna be like when the parents of 2 brothers that are on opposing teams play and they split the jersey in half. We'll put it into thirds, and it'll be a Giants, Saints, and Bengals Eli Apple jersey.
Love that, bro.
But you guys understand where I'm coming from.
No, most definitely.
What the tendencies are with I'm giving you the bad tendencies with Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
And I'm telling you, listen, if I had to start a franchise and I wanted to build a team around the quarterback, it would be Joe Burrow. Let me go ahead and say that again.
Out of anybody, you'd pick Joe Burrow?
Right now, yes, I love Joe Burrow as a quarterback. He is so smart.
There's so many.
He's not super fast. He knows how to scale the pocket. And you know what? He has taken an inferior team and brought them, damn it, right to the AFC Championship game. And he's 1 win away from going to the Super Bowl. 1 win. Unfortunately,
I can get behind that.
One problem he's facing Kansas City. If it was Buffalo, you'd see a hell of a shootout in this game. I'll tell you that right now.
I think Buffalo. If Buffalo was playing Buffalo. That's it. Here's my thing. Because Harry, to your thing, if there was any quarterback I'd start a franchise with right now today, I'd probably take Josh Allen.
I love Jacob. Jacob's my guy. I need to do every show with Jacob.
And pre-draft, if you go back before Josh Allen got drafted, and in Josh Allen's first year, I really trashed Josh Allen. I was very mean to Josh Allen.
That's okay.
I got to bring this up because I love Troy Polamalu, the troll himself.
Why?
This is I'll take Nathan Peterman over Zach Wilson.
Troy was on my show last night. He blew my mind with some of those comments.
That's okay, bro. I
love Troy.
Troy is the tribal troll. Trust me when I tell you. Jimmy G and screw the Packers and screw the North Side, South Side baby. That's right. You see, that's why I like him. You're not allowed to talk about the Cubs on this platform. Sorry. Fat Mike ain't around. He ain't here to protect you. 49ers are Super Bowl champs. You mean chumps?
That's
Troy
all right.
Polamalu says, choke master Matt Ryan to Tampa is like Rodgers to Chicago. Bite your tongue.
I think, yeah. All right, let's talk about this next game here. I know. Anyway, I'll keep going about the Josh Allen thing because Josh Allen, man. So after Josh Allen had like the worst completion percentage in the NFL, and he was atrocious his first year, something happened. It clicked, and it's not. And here's my thing. It wasn't Brian Dable or it wasn't Sean McDermott being some quarterback guru. It's the fact that they brought in talent, fixed up this offensive line, gave him a good defense, and then his true talent started to develop, and he really started to develop himself because he's always had that raw talent. Right. It wasn't honed yet, and now he really figured it out. And now I think that between his arm, he can't be tackled. He literally cannot be tackled. He goes down on his own terms.
Right.
It's ridiculous. He's like the quarterback version of Derrick Henry.
I think you're looking at it though. I will say a part of it's Dable, but for different reasons. I think when Dable got out of the way and realized to let Josh Allen be Josh Allen and not give him these complicated playbooks that you were seeing in his rookie year, you really started to see that was the difference between Nagy and Trubisky. It was going in the year two. It was, okay, here's a playbook 10 times more than I know you're capable with. With the Bills, it was, okay, we're gonna shorten this down and just rely on your athleticism, rely on your raw talent to be successful. And that's where you see Josh kind of thrive, is where Dable kind of was like, he took a step back and realized, okay, I'm going to let this kid be him. I'm going to let him run this offense. Whereas you've seen many other times in year two, usually it's, okay, we're going to expand the playbook 5,000 pages, and I need you to memorize all of it by training camp. And that's where I start to see with Josh Allen. I've been one of Josh Allen's biggest supporters since Wyoming, because I'm crazy about just college football in general. But the kid's arm, I would have to agree with you, Jacob. I love Joey B. Don't get me wrong, Harry. I'm a big Joey B supporter. I love his mentality, love his drip, love his swag, love everything to him. But that arm and those legs are just unmatched. And I can sit here right now and confidently say there's not a single person that is overall as built as Josh Allen is right now in the league.
Yeah.
I got to say, I'm probably the only double nickel guy you'll ever meet that knows what drip is, just for the record.
I'm rocking with it, Harry.
Honestly, for sure. All right, let's talk about this next game. NFC Championship. Niners at Rams, third time this season. It's not like this team, it wasn't split, right? The Rams are 0-6 against the Niners. McVay is 0-6 against Shanahan as the coach of the Rams here. Niners are plus 3.5. And the point total is 45.5. I'm going to be honest here. I don't even know why this game's at 3.5. I'm taking the Rams all day minus a 3.5. I am not even. This shouldn't even be. And I know whatever. I'm gonna get destroyed for this because when the Niners win and everyone comes back here and calls me out for it, but I think the Rams walk in to SoFi, to their home stadium today. I think I think they kick the Niners' ass all the way back to San Francisco. Yeah. I can't look at the 0-6. I'm looking at the matchup today. And the matchup is Trent Williams, real questionable. And I'm not hearing like questionable, like, oh, he's going to play. I'm hearing questionable, like they're going to say he's questionable all the way up until game time to not show their hand. And then all of a sudden he's not going to be playing. And as soon as Trent Williams isn't playing today, it's going to be a rough day for Jimmy G. Because even when Williams is playing and even when he's not under pressure, he's not great. Now have Von Miller. Now you have to pressure. Now you get more pressure from Aaron Donald coming in. And now if you even send a guy like Leonard Floyd into blitz, you're not going to be able to do anything. What are you going to do? You can't run the ball because now you can't run it to the left side. it's a big, big problem to have your star left tackle out. So I'm taking the Rams all day. And I'm taking the Rams even if Trent Williams is playing because I just think they're the better team. What do you guys think? Who wants to go
Go
first?
ahead, Mike.
I've made it abundantly clear. I said it, from the beginning of the year. White boys from Detroit that end up in LA. If you ever seen the movie 8 Mile, B Rabbit has landed. He's in the NFC Championship. Matthew Stafford is that guy, and he's been waiting for this opportunity his entire life. And the ongoing joke is just the guy from Detroit ending up in LA. Like Detroit's where careers and people go to die. And Harry, I know you'll love this one. Javier Baez, I'm praying for you because it's going to be a rough few years. But it's definitely something, especially with the Sox being as good as they are. But it's definitely
Say that again, please. It was music to my ears.
Oh, dude, I'll never be a hater. I'll never be Cubs for life, but I'll never be a hater. I definitely admire it. I love that talent over there. But back to everything going on with the Rams. To me, and I did not hop off the Stafford train when I saw the pick sixes, when I saw the interceptions. To me, what that was, and Jacob and Harry, I'd love your perspective on it. What made that such an issue was that Michelle and Henderson, as much love as I give them for being in the NFL, if you are in the NFL, you are a talented person. There is no question about that. But that did not make that offense two-dimensional. That is where you start to see guys prepare for guys like Ryan Tannehill, guys like Matthew Stafford, so on and so forth. You're starting to see why the defenses are solely focusing on Matthew Stafford. So you're starting to see that. Now with Cam Akers' emergence, not that he's going to be the most effective throughout this game, because by no means do I think he's the reason why they go to the Super Bowl, but he makes that offense two-dimensional. And the thing with that is that takes so much pressure off of Matthew Stafford, and you saw it last week. You saw defenses, you saw Bear, you saw Sue, you saw all these other individuals preparing for the run. And that's where I love it. It gives Henderson a little bit of a boost because they don't have to be the number one down backs. Now you're starting to see, okay, Matthew Stafford has more time. Matthew Stafford has more of a duty to just kind of do him, and he's not solely being focused by the secondary. Now, if Cooper Kupp wasn't being covered at all by the last week's matchup, we're looking at it now for Tampa. I mean, the 49ers are no better, if not they're worse in that secondary because of all these injuries going on. So if that's how they want to play this, I truly do believe in Odell. I believe in Higbee. I believe in everything they're doing over there. I think it's Rams by 1,000,000. I think it's not even close because Jimmy G is not scrambling. You're going to have to bring in Trey Lance for a little bit of wildcat play. Especially like Jacob said, if Trent Williams isn't playing, I better see at least Trey Lance have his helmet on by half because Jimmy G's not going to make it.
I think Odell was probably the best midseason acquisition in all of sports this year by far. I think, listen, anyone who knows me for any extended period of time, I've been a Stafford boy since, it was the first jersey I owned, first everything. Like, I always have a soft spot for him. I want to see him win. Ever when he got traded to the Rams, right when he got traded, immediately I said, Rams are my Super Bowl pick. Rams are going to win it all this year. Before they got Von Miller, before they got OBJ, before all that stuff, Rams are my Super Bowl pick. Now the fact that they have these guys like Von Miller who are coming in and weren't necessarily productive during the season, now all of a sudden he's Von Miller again. And he's playoff Von Miller. And Aaron Donald, who is getting triple teamed every game. Now he's playoff Aaron Donald again. OBJ, we haven't seen playoff OBJ. He's great, man. He's been great ever since they got him. And it's crazy to me that people were saying OBJ was washed because his quarterback couldn't throw a back dig, Like it's crazy to me. And now you have Cooper Kupp and OBJ on the same team. It's nuts. And even this defense, man, you get guys, right? You see a guy like Jordan Fuller now out for the entire playoffs. You see Nick Scott, who is a practice squad guy, come in and play like probably one of the best safeties left in the playoffs. Maybe the best safety left in the playoffs besides Jesse Bates, right? Like he's been so great. It's crazy. The guys that step up when there's talent around you. And I said, it wasn't Dable that really elevated Josh Allen. I don't think it's not Zach Taylor, obviously, that's elevating Joe Burrow. Right. But I do think that Sean McVay and Raheem Morris are really elevating the talent on this defense because scheme over talent any day of the week, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah, without question. And those are some really great points by the both of you. But, I could tell you one part of the Rams defense that may struggle in this game because they their linebackers don't cover very well, and especially when
Mm.
it comes to George Kittle. If Listen, it's not a hidden secret. San Francisco is going to want to run the football and play defense, and Jimmy G wants to use his best friend in George Kittle. I can't see how the Rams don't game plan for Kittle, but they can't help themselves. They're a very, very aggressive team, and they leave the middle of that field wide open. You brought up a point about Cam Akers. Absolutely love the guy, but he has a tendency of putting the ball on the carpet.
Right.
And that is one big problem. But that man, let me tell you something. First off, he's not even supposed to be playing football right now. That injury that he suffered, what a freak beast he
anomaly, man.
is of an athlete he is. He is Adrian Peterson. He's the new Adrian Peterson, not the same style of runner, but I'm talking about from a health and a healing standpoint. Adrian Peterson came back ran for 2,000 yards, guys. I mean, this was just unreal. I'm not saying that Cam Akers is going to do that, but I see him run with that tenacity and that angriness that you're supposed to have out of
Yeah.
a running back. But yes, just saying, the Rams win this game. They're not losing three times in one season.
Glad we're all together on that one. The Rams,
Now,
they're going to snap that streak today.
I do want to ask you guys though. Now, you mentioned Kittle, and you mentioned him being a big part of what's going to make them successful. I look at Debo and the Ramsey type of matchup. I think you're going to have to see Ramsey on Ayuk more. I think if we see Ramsey on Debo, we're going to see Ramsey get burnt a lot. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but the type of player that Debo is, he's so Swiss Army knife type of guy. You know, he's a gadget. He's a gadget guy. He reminds me of a very young Tyreek Hill, Cordell Patterson, something just a very miles ahead of where they were at their young ages, their career. But I do look at it right now. I've seen Ramsey get burned. We've seen Darnell Mooney burn Ramsey. We've seen other players burn Ramsey throughout this season. So I'm really looking at it from that perspective. And I'm saying when I see someone like this, I haven't seen Ramsey cover someone like this before.
My point exactly. That's
right.
why I said the aggressiveness can work against them, and that's what the Rams
Harry,
do a lot.
Harry, when you say they leave the middle open, I don't think it's Kittle that's going to take advantage of that. I think it's Deebo Samuel that you have to worry about who can really get those yards after the catch.
But that's why I think Kittle will have a bigger game because of Deebo Samuel, because he's going to roll the protections into one direction, and Kittle can run a seam or run a button hook. Seriously, it's just not a button hook. It's just a little crossing pattern.
Yeah, I think
we're really breaking this down pretty deep, guys. Just to let you know, I haven't done this in a long time. Just Jacob and I do this, but to get the three of us, and obviously there's three really good football minds, especially people that have played the game, understand the game, the whole 9 yards. And I'm just telling you from a gambler's perspective, from a handicapper's perspective, there's two things I don't do. I never bet with my feelings,
and
I never bet with my feelings. Just remember that. You can't. And you can only bet, you can only break down for what the good Lord gave you between your temples, what your eyes see.
Yeah, and I think the fact that Andrew Whitworth's playing today for the Rams is huge. Also, I honestly think the Rams drop a 30 burger on the Niners today, but I don't know.
Right.
I think that the Rams are going to score points. I don't think the Niners can keep up with it. That's
can you guys facilitate that for me? He says I want a Sammy Sosa jersey.
I got you, Harry. I got one in the large.
No, I'll take it, especially when he was wearing the White Sox jersey. See, people don't realize that.
Yeah, but that wasn't the same Slam and Sammy. We fixed them up real good over here.
No, you fixed them up all right. Here, hang over, bend over.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. Hey, we saved baseball, Harry. I don't want to hear it. We saved baseball.
Yes, you did. The hypocritical Major League Baseball. That's for another story.
Whole different day.
Troy Polamalu says, when the 49ers win, I want Harry to jump in the pool and give away his cats. Number one, I'll jump in the pool. But bro, don't pick on my cats. You'll never see one of these shows again. My cats, let me explain something to you, Troy. Humans are my least favorite animal. Okay?
Yeah.
I like my cats. Plus, they taste really good. I'm kidding.
All right. Those are the games, man. So I got the Bengals and I got the Rams today. Mike, you had the Bengals and you got the Rams as well.
Yes,
Harry's got the Chiefs and the Rams. So we'll see what happens. But I want to keep you guys on for my little rant here.
Yes, love it. Are we gonna talk coaches?
You guys will love this because you guys. I'm gonna go full screen.
I'll take care of you. I'm producing your show. Go for it.
And let me finish my entirety of it before you yell at me.
I'll hear you out. I'm a Cubs fan, Jacob. I'll hear you out.
Of
Hold
course,
on,
I actually
hold on.
saw.
What does that have to do with the price of eggs in China? It's just because you're a Cub fan, you say we're not
Guys,
patient?
we hear everybody out.
I saw the
Are
Cubs.
you saying? Hold on. Are you saying the Southsiders aren't patient?
Oh, you're patient. But what I'm saying, Harry, is Theo Epstein looked at me straight in the face after winning the World Series and said, Daniel Descalso is your second baseman. And I said, you know what? I'll hear you out. I'll hear you out. Now, it was horrible, but Jacob, I'll hear you out. And if it's great, it's great. It's
All right.
great. It's great.
Listen.
All right.
The Cubs, one of their last games with the band together before that trade deadline. I was there. I was in Chicago in
Oh man, it was a great game, bro.
June or July. It was Cubs Cardinals. They didn't win the game, but I saw Paul Goldschmidt hit a ball probably the farthest I've ever seen anyone hit a baseball in my entire life.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it was close to hitting the bleachers on top of that building across
I know you're the little yeah.
How far it was. But it's okay. I was right behind the Cardinals dugout. I was chirping Harrison Bader all game. Don't worry about that.
As you should.
Yeah, he deserved it. But here we go. Okay. So the New York Giants, they hire Joe Shane as their GM, guy from Buffalo, and obviously he brings in Brian Dable as their head coach.
Mm.
I understand the Giants love Daniel Jones. I know. But and John Mara, he wants to make it work because he doesn't want to be wrong. He doesn't want to be wrong. Why would you want to be wrong about your quarterback? And he says that he believes in him. But we hear this all the time, right? The Bears believed in Mike Glennon, and then until they didn't. Sorry,
He had to go there, didn't he, man?
That might have been a cheap shot. That might have been a cheap shot.
I wouldn't say we ever believed in Mike. I wouldn't say
No, we
we
didn't believe in Mike. Napoleon Dynamite.
You paid it. But then the Cardinals say that Josh Rosen's their guy.
Right.
And then they draft Kyler Murray.
Hey,
Sean Kaiser and right.
It happens.
Don't forget about Kaiser.
This happens every off.
I like Josh Rosen, man. Don't pick on Josh Rosen. He just never got a fair shot.
All right.
I don't know about that one.
And here's my case for why the New York Giants, why their big offseason move this year should be bringing in Mitch Trubisky.
I'm on board.
I'm on board.
I'm on board.
I'm on board, baby.
The familiarity. There's already familiarity with Dable's offense that he's bringing in from Mitch Trubisky's time in Buffalo.
Right.
From his 1 year that he had in Buffalo, sitting behind Josh Allen, which was probably, get out of here. And then the time that he spent backing up Josh Allen, learning this offense. So he's coming in to a playbook that he already knows. He doesn't have to learn anything. Daniel Jones wasn't good last year. And if you want to say, oh, well, Jones is better than Trubisky.
No, he's not.
You don't know that.
Based off of what? You know what I mean?
Based off of what? Jones was fine. Trubisky was in the playoffs.
Twice.
In the three or four
times
times he was there.
That's right, 3 times. But twice as a starting quarterback.
No, yeah.
Twice as starting quarterback. And then I understand they like Daniel Jones, but the process with the Giants is going to get repetitive.
Right.
The Giants need to make a move like this, a one-year guy. Listen, the coach right now in year one is expected to take Jones and is to make Jones good this year, his first year there.
Right.
He's expected for Jones to be a great quarterback. If Jones isn't great, guess what? Now they draft a quarterback next year, right? Now in Dable's second year, he's expected to win, but with a rookie quarterback. Right. And let's say the rookie quarterbacks, half of them are busts anyway. So let's say he's a bust. Let's say this rookie quarterback is average. Let's say he's Daniel Jones again, right? Even to the talent level of Daniel Jones. Now Dable heads into his third year, which is make or break. Now this second year quarterback, this sophomore quarterback, doesn't do as well as you hope. Now you fire Dable. You fire Brian Dable, rinse and repeat all over again with this process.
Right.
Next coach comes in. Now all of a sudden it's the same. Now, we got to give him a real chance. Got to give him a real coach, a real shot with weapons and an offense and a defense and every single thing around him that's got to work. This is going to happen every single year because John Mara refuses to admit that he's wrong. He'll refuse to admit that he's wrong about a quarterback. There's familiar. Mitch Trubisky was not as bad, and Harry really opened my. I'll give Harry complete credit on this. That he really opened my eyes to this. That Mitch Trubisky was not as bad as people remember. Like Mike talked about right before, Matt Nagy handed him a playbook with 5,000 more pages of stuff that he didn't know how to do.
Right.
At least yet. Now Dable takes this exactly what he did with Josh Allen, simplified an offense, let him really use his talent.
Right.
And I think Mitch Trubisky could be real impressive as a New York Giant. And I know I'm talking to two Bears fans here, which is a ridiculous thing to a ridiculous fan base for an opinion on this. But what do you guys think about this move if they were to make it?
Mike, go for it. I want to be last.
You know, Mitch has been my guy. I've had multiple conversations with Mitch. When I played ball, I wore number 10 way before Mitchell Trubisky was a Chicago Bear. And now all I would ever get, you know, throughout that Mitchell Trubisky tenure was, hey, you look just like him. So I got to rock with the guy for my life.
I was gonna say that. And
that's my guy. I got to support him. And you know what? Sometimes he made me the hero at the bar and I'd get the girl. And sometimes I'd get beers thrown at me and people would hate me. So, you know, I'm 50-50 on Mitch all the time. But here's my really unbiased take, and I've said it since 2018. When I got on the Matt Nagy hate train, it was not throughout the entirety of the 2018 season. It was that wild card game when you blamed Cody Parkey, who had more points than your offensive-minded, you know, coach of the year. You know, when you run the game or run the ball a total of 10 times with Mizell, Cohen, and Howard, when Howard's 1,000-yard back. I mean, you're looking at it from that perspective. Once I started to see what it really was, the writing on the wall is that this guy was a one-dimensional offense, and he wasn't doing the one-dimensional part that well either. You know what I mean? So, like, that's the reality of what Matt Nagy was. Mitchell Trubisky, we're going to call it for what it is. That guy couldn't throw more than 15 yards at a consistent rate to save his life, and that's the reality of it. But the reality also is that you could groom this guy, that he's serviceable, that he can get you a winning season. He could lead you and be that guy. Not that he's going to be the sole focal point to why you win a game, but he's definitely going to be that guy that can help get you there. Now, I could see him being a Ryan Tannehill. I could see him being that guy that slowly throughout his career kind of emerges into something bigger than what he is. When I look at what you're saying right now, Jacob, the difference between it is that I think it's a better situation than Buffalo with Allen, is because not based off of the talent of Mitchell Trubisky, but the run game that Dable can actually utilize with Barkley if he remains healthy. The biggest problem to me has nothing to do with Mitch, and it has nothing to do with Jones or Dable. It has something to do with a $20 million annually wide receiver and a Chicago native in Kenny Golladay. And I got mad love for Kenny. He did amazing things while he was here in high school in Chicago. But I'm going to be honest, the best ability is availability, and Kenny is not available ever. Never was, whether it was
Preach on, brother.
To now. So I look at it like that. And if I'm being completely honest, I agree. I don't know if this is where you were going with it, Jacob. This is what I was understanding. I agree with you full-heartedly. I think right now you move on from Jones and you try to get a first-round pick this year, so you could have 3 of them. And then you have a great second-round pick, which is basically 4 first-round picks when you look at it because of how early on it is in the second. I think that's the way you go about it. And next year you can draft a quarterback. And really quick, I'm not going to sit here and say that all the quarterbacks of this year's draft are going to be a bust, because I know there's going to be one of them that ends up being the greatest of all time, and every person at ESPN and everywhere else is going to just sit there and be like, we call them busts. But so I'm going to say this, that they're not great as of right now as how they're being marketed. I think you go 2 offensive linemen, get a wide receiver, if you can get that one for Jones, and then in the second round, do what you got to do. And I think at the end of the day, though, Mitch is going to be great. The only way I don't see it happening is if someone like Denver or Pittsburgh offers him a starting job.
Yeah, here's my thing also with the Giants and Kenny Golladay. Mitch Trubisky isn't going to come in here and automatically make a receiver, right? You need to put talent around him. I think Kadarius Toney's fantastic. I don't know why they don't use him, but I don't. If Galladay's not available, their second and third guys become they're average at best. Trubisky's not going to do that. The other thing that I like the Giants doing is, if possible, send an offer to Seattle that they can't refuse for Russell Wilson, because then you bring in a guy who can actually make a receiver, and the talent level around him doesn't really matter. The Giants' offensive line was playing better than Seattle's this year, which is not that difficult, but it's an upgrade. And that's certainly a winnable division year after year for Russ if he goes to the Giants, right? So I like that, but I like Trubisky a little more in terms of value and being able to keep that draft capital that they need.
For sure.
My opinion?
Go ahead, Harry.
Thank God. Because I love talking about Mitch Trubisky. Number one, Mitch Trubisky, in my opinion, if he goes to the Giants, it'll be an improvement. but I don't believe he's going there. I think teams like Pittsburgh, Washington, or a team in the NFC South, because there's going to be a lot of quarterback carousels going on. But let me tell you what you get with
If you went to the Bucks.
that would
I
be
would
pretty
love
funny.
it. I mean, he did great things in Tampa.
But I guess he did. But let me go ahead and finish this. The head coach, Brian Dable, who went to the New York Giants, has a very similar philosophy that a Matt Nagy has. Hear me out. They both like to run 5-man protections, and neither one of them like to run the football. The difference between Nagy and Dable is that he actually calls plays for his quarterback to roll out to what he is most effective doing. So for that reason, Trubisky would be better under center with the New York Giants under Dable than he was with Matt Nagy. Because if everybody remembers correctly, Mitch Trubisky played his best when he was rolling to his right, struggled a little bit going to his left. They forced him to become a pocket passer, which what he wasn't, he could develop into it. And that's for another subject about abandoning in the run game. Because let me tell you something. Buffalo, they abandon the run game. They allow their quarterback to run because, in my opinion, Singletary is a 4-down back. They didn't use them that way. They don't use their backs in the correct way in Buffalo, and that is the Achilles heel for that football team. And maybe they would have won that football game had they utilized their running game a little bit more with running backs. But that's for another subject. We're talking about Mitchell Trubisky. Mitchell Trubisky, in my opinion, is going to go to the NFC South somewhere, or the Washington football team, and/or Pittsburgh. Daniel Jones may be there one more year, but if they do that, they just set up another head coach to fail. They need to move on and put a bridge quarterback in there. And I'm not sure that Mitchell Trubisky is going to be that guy. It's a very interesting scenario. But let's look how successful Trubisky was as when Matt Nagy decided to give up the play calling. I knew the guy was a bum after year one. And I'm like, this guy does not want to run the football. Okay? There was a lot of knocks on Mitch Trubisky. I'm going to bring back a game that Mitch Trubisky, they brought him back in after being benched because he was slightly injured. And everybody in Chicago was clamoring to get Nick Foles out of the game. You might remember this. And they're like, bring him back in, bring him back in. Even the GM.
Detroit, right?
I'm sorry?
It was against Detroit, right?
I believe it was, but I think I'm going to bring back, I don't remember the exact game, but I'm going to bring back a time you might remember this. Because the pressure was on Nagy to bring and let Mitch Trubisky play. He looked up into the sky boxes and went, there's your one play. They rolled a naked bootleg on the guy to the left, and he injured his shoulder, and he's looking up. He goes, there's your one play. Pardon my expression, but what kind of asshole can you possibly be to turn around and run a quarterback on his very first play on a 3rd down to bring him back in to run a naked bootleg at midfield? Just think about that for a minute.
You know what, Harry? I know exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I know exactly why he did it too. We were playing the Saints, and Sean Payton had been doing that same shit with Taysom Hill the entire time. Now, here's Jacob. If you don't know, here's where I go in on Nagy. He's a follower. You know that thing where they're doing everyone goes for it on 4th down every now and then. Matt Nagy took that and ran with it, and he goes for it on 4th down every time now.
On their own 30.
Right. So when he saw them doing that with Taysom Hill, Matt Nagy sat there and said, well, I want to play with that. I want to do that. So he did it with Mitch. And the difference is Mitch wasn't healthy enough to be able to do that at that point, and he hurt him again. But that's where, Harry, that's where I'm like, the guy's just a follower, bro.
Yeah, no, and it's not just that. He was really sticking in Chicago's fan base's ass, including the management. He's looking up in the skybox and he's giving them the number one. You want your play? There's your play. He's doing this. And then the next game, what did he do? He took the play calling duties out of his hands and said, here you go. You call him now.
Yeah, it was atrocious, man. And that was the moment where you kind of realize you don't care about your QB1. And that's the number one problem with a head coach. If you don't care about the QB1, you don't care about the team. Because that's just the reality of it.
That's why I think Sean Payton left the Saints. I think that's what did it for him. I honestly, the GM didn't care about the quarterback, and that's all of a sudden now.
And you know what? The very first year they drafted Mitch Trubisky, I ran into Marcus Robinson, former Chicago Bear wideout, very tall man. We were at Arlington Horse Track, which is going to be the future home for the Chicago Bears, hopefully. But anyway, we ran into Marcus Robinson. It was a fan fest day. They rented out the entire clubhouse. There was only 20 people because they had to pay an stupid amount of money to be able to get in there. They were there with the Lombardi Trophy, the whole 9 yards. And we were talking X's and O, my wife and I, with Marcus, and I said, so what do you think of this Mitchell Trubisky? He said, can't read a defense yet.
Yeah.
Does it make him bad? And he goes, no. He just needs the proper coaching. You talk about tools. He has the potential to be the best quarterback, is what he said, that Chicago's ever had. He says, I says, well, give me an example. He says he was up under center, and he goes, 53's the mic. 53's the mic. And he's screaming it out, and the center turns around, and he slaps him in the head, and he goes, no, 55's the mic. 55's the mic. And it kept going on and on and on. But that's why in the beginning, if you remember, they were rolling him out under John Fox.
Right.
He was having some success because they were running the football and giving him protection,
Right.
and forcing the 8th man into the box so that he was able to do the things he was able to do.
What happened with John Fox? I forgot why he got. Was he just like average?
He wasn't. He wasn't that he was average. You know, he was just a defense. The game passed him by, in my opinion. He didn't surround himself with the proper offensive coordinators, and that's something I know firsthand with Chicago's new hire as a head coach. He wants nothing to do with the offense. He's not even going to be on the offensive side of the football when the offense has the ball. He's going to sit with his defense. He's going to hold his people accountable. This is why I like this hire.
Great transition, Harry. Thank you very much, because we're going to do this thing called because we don't have time to go into every single one of them. So we're going to have a one-word answer. It's going to be hate, like, or love. We're going to go through all the head coach hires. You're going to tell me if you hate it, you only like it, or you love it. Okay?
Absolutely. Go for it.
Matt Eberflus, Bears head coach. Go ahead.
Love it.
Mike?
I like it right now. I like it. I like it.
I love it. I think that if he does exactly what Harry was talking about, where he doesn't touch the offensive side of the ball, bringing in Luke Getsy as his offensive coordinator, I love it. I love what it's doing. I love what it could do for Fields, and he's getting a ton of talent on defense also.
I guess I'll say I love it. What I don't love is the revolving door of offensive coordinators that might come with that. That's the only. I don't want another Jay Cutler situation where he has 6 OCs in 7 years for Justin Fields. So I love the Eberflus stuff. I'm just more concerned about how many OCs are going to be coming in and out of this door.
Yeah. All right, Nathaniel Hackett.
He'll get to
the Broncos.
I hate it.
Oh, I like it. I like it.
I like it. That's my. I think it's a fine hire.
I like it.
It feels like they're settling.
I don't know. I don't like anybody that got fired by Jacksonville. I'm like, I don't know, bro. How much did you really do in Green Bay? You know what I mean? Like, it's Matt LaFleur doesn't even get credit in Green Bay. They give it to Aaron Rodgers. So who am I to give it to Nathaniel Hackett? Like, that's
my problem with the next one that we're going to talk about here, because even if it was one, we wanted Flores and Watson.
Christ. Keep Watson away.
Hackett, I think they brought in Hackett literally just because they thought they were going to be able to get Aaron Rodgers now. I legitimately think that's why they did it. And if they don't,
who?
The Broncos.
Okay.
And then that leads me into my Jaguar. So Byron Leftwich to the Jaguars. I hate that.
Why? Why do you hate that?
I hate it.
It just keeps him at mediocrity at best, even with him, because he stinks as a coordinator. That's just my opinion. Let me tell you something. Byron Leftwich is another version of a Matt Nagy that lacks wanting to run the football even more than Matt Nagy did. Okay, you talk about a team that doesn't want to run. It's the risk it no biscuit mentality. You want to stay away from Tampa's offensive anything. Trust me, especially anything under that Bruce Arians street. And people in 1252 are like, oh my God, it's Bruce Arians. I live here in the Tampa Bay area. I see exactly what's going on. I get it. They had arguably their 2 best seasons, but they don't have that kind of weapons in these other teams.
Exactly. They don't have the okay. You bring in Leftwich because he won a Super Bowl, guys. Who cares? Who cares? He won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady. And you want to talk about someone who gets no credit. Byron Leftwich gets no credit because because you have Tom Brady, you have Mike Evans, you built a super team in Tampa.
What about Todd Bowles? Why is he not getting the love?
The team didn't even win a Super Bowl this year, and the team had a super team. I don't care. Oh, we were missing Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown. You still have Mike Evans, who's a top 10 receiver. You want to talk about weapons. Leonard Fournette was playing. Mike Evans is still playing. You have a ton of talent defensively. And goddamn, you have Tom Brady playing quarterback. What do you mean no talent? Oh, no talent for Tom to work with. He won 5-6 Super Bowls in New England with zero talent around him. What do you want? Byron Leftwich, His schemes were not good.
I love
Right.
the hot take, bro.
He was not a good coordinator. And you want to bring him in here. Great. Oh, you know who's going to be Mike Evans next year? Oh, LaVisca Chenault is going to be real
Who?
good. It's not even going to be close. And the one piece of talent that you're going to have next year with James Robinson,
Right.
they're not even going to run the football, nor are you going to have even half of the talent that you had on the Bucs offensive line that you do in Jacksonville. It's not even close. The defense isn't even that defensive line isn't even a little bit close. The linebackers are not even a little bit close. It's
Can
not.
I make a prediction?
Go ahead.
Okay. If Byron Leftwich goes to Jacksonville, pretty boy QB1 doesn't make it past the midseason. He will be killed out there.
Well, I said that this year too.
First off, I'm the one who told everybody. You remember, Jacob, I was like, he's going to be a bust. He's not the best quarterback in this draft. I'm telling you, zero chance. Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor's bust. It's not that Trevor doesn't have the talent. It's the fact that he's put in Jacksonville.
I'll make you a bet. Anybody out there right now listening to this, including you, Mike, I'll make you a bet in the next 5 years. They got 4 more years left because it was his rookie season. He doesn't go to the playoffs.
And here's my thing where I'll pose you with that. I bet you he still throws 4,000 yards every single season once they give him a wide receiver.
Stafford. He could be Stafford.
No, I get it. I get what you're saying. I don't care if you throw for 5.
I'll own up to it. I'm biased. I'm a Clemson fan. I love him. I love everything about it. Sorry, Jacob. That's where we counter. I see the Sirakas gear. But respect. But I will say this. What I've seen from Trevor Lawrence, I hate the people who are saying he's going to be a bust because he's done nothing to prove he's a bust. Like, oh, well, he throws a perfect pass to Chenault and Chenault drops the pass. Like, I don't know what you want me to do with that. Horrible offensive line, horrible play calling. Travis Etienne being drafted. I loved it as a Clemson fan. As an organization, I look at James Robinson and I kind of look at it and I go, why are you doing the things you do? You could have taken an offensive lineman.
One good piece on this whole team. You draft the same position?
Yeah, it's to me now. I understand it to some regard because I look at James Robinson the same way I look at Jordan Howard. He'll rack you up 1,000 yards, but he can't catch the ball to save his life. I think it's going to be short-lived. He is going to be a free agent next year, so I wouldn't pay James Robinson. And it's definitely something to where with Travis, maybe you got something there. Maybe there's a connection with him and Trevor, so I'll let it slide. But
Trevor Lawrence will be a bust, not because of his capabilities.
Right.
Let me clarify this. Because of the position he was put in, because of the people that they're surrounding him with. For those reasons, Trevor Lawrence will be a forgotten quarterback in 3 years.
The Khan family cares more about wrestling than they do football. It's
no doubt
about this.
No doubt.
What did you and I say when they drafted, when I said they're going to go after Trevor Lawrence and they're going to get Urban Meyer? And I said, what are they doing? I said, they are going to sell jerseys and they are going to pack that stadium and the team's still going to be garbage.
Look how many Tim Tebow jerseys you still see out there in Jacksonville. He was there for 5 seconds. Guys are still wearing it because there's nobody else to be proud of. There's nobody else to want to wear.
Trevor is, I said it. I said it pre-draft. I said it when the Jets were gonna get him, and then I said it after because even though I was upset, I still said it. That Trevor is immensely talented. No one is denying that. He has all the talent in the world. The problem is that he's never gonna get a chance to show it.
Right.
And that's the reality of it. That's why I don't know how you guys feel about it. We've been talking about free agency over here in Chicago and where Allen Robinson should go. I think he goes back to Jacksonville and plays with Trevor. You get the most money. They have the most money that they can offer you. No one else is paying this guy.
I still think they may even save Allen Robinson.
I think they can.
I think Chicago actually retains him.
They have a chance to do it, especially after this season. But my biggest thing right now is
because his biggest problem was Matt Nagy. I have read all the reports, and again, I don't believe everything that I read. Okay, but where there's smoke, there's fire. You got to agree with that. And
he's gone out there and publicly said it. Like he's not a fan of Nagy. So I'm with you on that. Mitch definitely didn't help. Foles and Dalton definitely didn't help. I think he likes Justin. Not enough to train with Justin after practice like Darnell Mooney, but that's a whole different conversation.
No, let me tell you something. Allen Robinson was very, very vocal and supportive of Mitch Trubisky. He did like Mitch because why wouldn't you like Mitch? Every time he dropped back to pass, he's like this. Okay, where you at?
Right. And that's the difference, though. But I do think back to Jacksonville, if Allen is still looking for that money that he was demanding at the end of last season, the only team that has the money to really do it outside of Miami is Jacksonville. So I do think there's a good shot that we could see a return of AR-15.
The thing is, does he want to go another chance?
The comment of the year. Comment of the year.
Jesus Christ.
That would be, oh boy. I think A-Rob wants to go to a contender if he's going to go anywhere else. I doubt he's going to go. He's wasted his whole career. He's going to go back. He went from Blake Bortles to
hey, man, listen, say what you want. Allen Robinson played on a contending team. He played on 2 teams in Chicago that had a chance. One of them had a legitimate shot at going to the Super Bowl. Okay?
We won't talk about that. It's okay. It's okay. Is it still a sore spot? Is that still a thing?
It's not as bad.
But the Cody Parkey thing, it's not Bartman, but yeah.
I personally felt like we lost that game because of Nagy, and I hate Cody, but I won't slander Cody.
That game,
you know what? Not only did Cody Parkey rip my heart out, but he ripped my heart out 2 years later because I couldn't follow him around in football, and I had a lot of money bet. I don't remember which game it was, and I'm like, okay, I switch over to the game. I was like, and they're lining up for a field goal, and I'm like, oh shit, it's Cody Parkey. And what does he do? He hits the upright. I had to go buy a TV. No kidding. That's why I got an 85-inch TV in here, because my 70, I threw the remote and cracked the screen. I was so mad. I couldn't believe it. He did not get me once. He got me twice because I didn't know Cody Parkey played for this team. Are you kidding me?
I think that Cody Parkey game, that game shouldn't have even come down to a field goal.
That's where I was coming from. Was like, dude, you ran the ball 10 times against a defense that wasn't good at stopping the run. You have Jordan Howard out there, and let's not forget who Jordan Howard was in 2018. He had 3 back-to-back-to-back 1,000+ yard seasons, and now you just don't utilize him at all. You have Tariq Cohen, who at the time was a gadget that no one could figure out. And
still a gadget.
You were using Mazzell? Who? Like, what do we? No disrespect, but who?
Hang on, I gotta do that again. Just to say it again. What was that?
Who's Mazzell? Like all season long, it's Jordan, Mitch, and Cohen. We're going down the yard like that. Hell, Taylor Gabriel was doing his thing for the run, and then we got into Philly, it was more in Chicago, but Philly came into town. And they were like, you know what? No one would see coming is Mazzell, and I was just like. What are we doing?
Let's run the ball with a worse run back.
We don't want Mitch to throw the ball. Let's make him throw over 300 yards. Why? 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 I don't know.
All right, man. We're going to wrap this thing up.
I love it.
Mike, go ahead. Thank you so much for joining me, first of all. And go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you.
You can find me on Saturdays. I will be going live every Saturday at 12:52 Entertainment. You can find Mike on the Mic. You can find me Mike on the Mic podcast, but I would prefer for you to watch it at 12:52. You get to see my beautiful face. You get to see the background. You get to see everything going on, not just my raspy voice. But you definitely can find me there every Saturday at 12:52 at 7 Central. We are covering everything from WNBA, NBA, NHL, MLB, NFL. We cover everything except soccer. We're gonna get better. We're gonna get better. We're gonna learn it. I got a bunch of my buddies on the west side that are teaching me everything I need to know right now. There's just so many names and so many different teams and leagues, and I'm trying to wrap my mind around.
I can't get into soccer, but I don't know something about soccer.
It's rough. It's rough, dude. There's like 12 different leagues, and only like 2 of them matter. It's the weirdest thing.
Hey, bro, I'm a Chelsea fan, so I mean,
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means either.
What that means?
You guys don't know what Chelsea is?
I know what
really?
they are. I know what relevance they play and who's on the team.
I don't know.
I know Neymar. I know Ronaldo.
He's the best. It's the best team in the Premier League.
Ronaldo's my guy, but all the rest of them, I have no idea. I know Messi.
Listen, Chelsea is the best team in the Premier League.
All right.
I'm sorry, as the English say, the Premier League.
Yeah. All right, Mike. I'll talk to you later. Peace.
All right, fellas.
Peace. All right, Harry. You too. Go ahead. First, man, this was a great show. It was
fun. It was a lot of fun. It was informative.
It was really great. We really broke down these games to the core. Olympiakos Malakas.
Do you know what that means? I'm not going to tell you. But anyway, he spoke Greek to you. I'm glad you said that. Say it again.
Nah, I don't know. I don't want to say that again.
He's
All right,
talking about the Greek national team,
Okay.
Olympiakos, which is the Greek national team. Malakas is it's an endearing term.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. All right, Harry, go ahead. Tell everyone where they can find you.
Tell you where you can find me. You can find me on 2 shows, actually 3 shows every week. I'm usually on the sports web with my co-host, Mr. Peter Blake, on the Over Under. Friday nights, the Over Under on 1252. And it's usually 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. And then right here in this chair or somewhere floating around beautiful Florida on a Sunday morning, giving you all the information and the inside stuff on the Hard Count Football Podcast with my man, Mr. Jacob Charnow.
All right, Harry, I'll hit you with the harp one more time and I'll get you out of here. There you go. All right, brother. I'll talk to you.
Thank you so much, Jacob. We'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Enjoy the games.
Go Rams.
Go Rams. All right, guys. And with that, we're going to wrap today from the Hard Count Football Podcast Live. My name is Jacob Charnow. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today. Special thanks to Harry the Greek and Mike Hughes for coming on and talking about and breaking these games down to their core. A ton of knowledge, a ton of information. And hopefully we got you excited for these games. So like we said, the Bengals Chiefs game at 3:00 Eastern, Rams Niners at, I want to say 6:30, which either way, 2 great games. Going to be a lot of fun. Championship weekend. Enjoy the games. Go follow me on Twitter at Jacob Charnow, Instagram at Hard Count Football, and subscribe to the Hard Count Football Podcast on YouTube, and check out all the other amazing shows from 1252 Sports. I'll see you guys next Sunday. Enjoy.
Breaking news on 1252 Sports Chicago.
The Packers are out of the playoffs.
All right, Harry, get out of here. And the Packers are out of the playoffs, guys. Enjoy the games. I'll see you all next Sunday.